Alright, so today I'm going to jump in here and do a bit of a demo on the new Manga Studio software that I've been using. I know I'm getting a lot of questions from people in regards to how it works and how the change of or how I've changed my workflow and some of the tools that I use and the process that I go through. So I figure I would spend a little bit of time going over that. So yeah, so I mean, basically we'll jump straight into things right now. Okay, so pretty much the first thing I'm going to do is start working with the pencil tool whenever I'm working on initial concepts or sort of sketching out some composition. I always use this one, so you can see that I'm using this one straight out of the box. So the darker pencil selection from underneath the pencil tool, and I love the pencil tool in Manga Studio as well. It feels really nice to work with. And so you can see here I'll pick like a nice bright color. Sometimes I use blue, sometimes I use red or orange or something like that, something that stands out. And basically I will just start sketching and start laying things out. So now guys, you can see that this is all in real time, so you can see there's a huge difference to what you guys usually see in the sort of 2, 3, 4 minute speed arts that go up. You know, there's a bit of work that sort of goes in to laying this stuff down. I think all in all the piece probably took about an hour from start to finish, and we're just working on like a character bust here, you know, sort of an Assassin's Creed feel to it, probably based it a bit on Ezio from the Assassin's Creed 2 series. I really like the outfit and stuff like that, and you'll see that'll come into play soon. But yeah, so we just pretty much just keep working this concept. You can see it's going fairly slow at the moment, so I will just speed this up right now just a little bit so we can get through this section here. Alright, so we're pretty much running about 4 times faster now, which is still quite a bit slower to what you usually see in the speed arts. But yeah, so we just basically work it down, start working on the body, start sort of sketching out, looking for composition, stuff like that. But I'll take this time now to speak a little bit more about Manga Studio. I started using it about a month ago now, and I just basically fell in love with it, especially with the tablet. The way that it works with the sort of pressure sensitivity and well, actually, that's one of the main things that I picked up straight away. Compared to Photoshop, it is a huge drastic change in regards to you know, how much control you have you know, over that pressure sensitivity, which is obviously really important. And just some of the tools as well, in terms of I love the airbrush in it, and but the inking pen itself is just it's just lovely to work in. So I mean, if you guys are looking, I've got a link in the description below which will take you to my website, and right there's a banner that you can click off, and you can find out a little bit more about it. I'll fill you in with a bit more details at the end, but one of the other huge selling points for me was the price point. A lot of people come to me in regards to Photoshop and how much it is, and the price is obviously a limiting factor for a lot of people. But for Manga Studio, for the full version, is $79. So I mean, and you get everything that you see here. That's not a light version or anything like that. So it's a huge deal sweetener. One of the other cool things that I really enjoy is that for a lot of the text effects and stuff like that, I like to add those in Photoshop still. I think that it's got a little bit more power there, and you know, for text editing, your layer styles and all that sort of jazz. And so you can actually save into PSD format from Manga Studio and then open it straight into Photoshop, and it retains all your layers and all your information and everything as well. So actually moving between the software isn't an issue. So that is also something which is really cool. So we're jumping into real time again now, and you can see me mucking around a bit, just warming up. I'm pretty happy with the stuff that I've got underneath. It's, you know, enough of a guideline for me to start laying some more finer links over the top. Sometimes I'll do another pass over the top of that, just tighten up the sketch layer a little bit, and then before I do that final line work. But in this instance, you can see that I just go straight over the top. I never follow those lines underneath exactly. It's not a matter of tracing what you've done, it's more so of a matter of using that. Well, what I use it for is sort of just composition. Make sure that all the bits and pieces are the right size and they work well enough together. And it sort of gives you a guide on you know, where you're heading. But you can see that in the end I changed the hairstyle a little bit and a few other things as well. So I'm jumping in now with the pen tool, and I'm using, and this is all straight out. I haven't modified any of the tool sets at all, and you can see that I'm using the G pen, it's called, straight out of the box. Sort of re-going over things a little bit sometimes can be a little bit fiddly for me to try to muck around, get the exact right stroke. You can see me undo quite a bit, which usually gets hidden when I speed things up, but it's all revealed now. So I jump on one of the things that I really like as well is that you can set your brush size on the left, and one of the tips that I like, because I like to do a thicker line work around the outside and then go in to the finer detail with a thinner size brush. And so I always remember what size I start with, because if you do change brush sizes halfway through, whether you jump into to do a little bit of detail, it's always good to remember what it was, so if you do need to jump back out, you're not having too much difference there. Alright, so again, I'll speed things up a little bit, and we'll kick it into about 4 times again, just so we can sort of blast through it. But yeah, you can see it's all pretty much the same process, and I'm not zooming in or out really at this stage. I'm sort of just laying in things, and some of the things, you know, the lines aren't joining up exactly, but all that sort of cleanup stage comes in after, and it's just a matter of sort of laying down this, you know, base section and then sort of jumping in after a while. You can see me sort of mucking around with different sections. I undo a lot until I'm sort of exactly happy with the right stroke as well. So yeah, don't be afraid to, usually my fingers are either over the undo key or the little hotkey on my Cintiq, which is going to wear out before all the others, I'm sure. Yeah, but I mean, aside from that, there's not too much else to say about this section of things. It's fairly straightforward. You're using the one tool and going over everything. Now, in terms of document size, that's probably something that I need to touch on. I get that a little bit as well. Right now, I think this one is about, I think it's about 4,000 pixels by 4,000 pixels square. And then, but whatever size you do it in, whatever document size you pick, the one thing that I need to stress is make sure you make it print ready. Even if you don't plan on printing it, it's always good to. So that's at least 300 DPI. I think I work about 350 nowadays. And so your DPI setting on your new document, it'll either be, you know, dots per inch, or I think sometimes it's PPI, pixels per inch. Not sure of the technical things behind it, but just remember that magic number 300 and set it up to be that. This brush size here is about an 80, I think, that I'm using for this the thicker side of things, and then I'll knock it down to about half of that when I start doing the detail lines. But yeah, I mean, as you can see, sort of, you know, the eyes and the eyebrows, stuff like that, all aren't sort of finalized or anything. It really is just sort of laying things down, then you can go back over the top and tweak a little bit more. So I'll let this run at this speed here, which is you know, considerably slower than usual. Hopefully you guys are picking up a few things. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to either leave them in the comments or even just send me a private message, and I can help where I can. But other than that, I'm just going to let this one roll until the a little bit closer to the end of this inking stage, and we'll throw on some tunes from Blackink, and we'll pick it up shortly. Alright, so now I'm going to jump in here and start cleaning up things a little bit and start adding a little bit more detail. You can also see that because I want the hair and the goatee and the eyebrows of course, to be black, so I basically use a fill tool on those and fill them right out, and you can see that when that happens you lose a lot of the divisions between the different sections. So what you'll see I will do here is I'll either jump in with like a white brush or usually like the eraser tool, and just add in a little bit more detail. So add in some strokes in the hair, and pull those lines up on the, there we go. Yeah, so you can see, just pull those lines up a little bit, and that just seems to add that sort of level of depth, which you sort of lose when you just sort of flat color hair like that. The other way that I tend to deal with dark hair is I will actually color it a really, really dark grey rather than a black itself, so then you still have that line work show through. But there is something about having a nice solid black that I prefer, so I tend to lean towards doing it this way nowadays, as opposed to the other. But yeah, so we'll quickly rip through this. And pick it up right about here where we start fleshing out all the finer details. So I will have a reference image usually on my right. I've got two monitors, so that makes it a little bit easier, but either that or print it out, or I actually collect a lot of art books, especially from video games, so that's another thing that I'll usually be either looking at for either costumes or ideas, even face shapes, all kinds of things like that. Those reference images make a huge difference. So yeah, just sort of, you can see now that I hide the sketch layer. I do that a little bit while I was fleshing out the main section, and you can see I add it in, turn it off, and just see how things look. Always important to do that. And the other thing, which I don't think I do here, but the other thing that I do find important is to flip your canvas. So flip it horizontally and have a look at the image the other way. I usually do this, and the reason is because when you're working on something and you're staring at it for however long we've been working on it now, your eye begins to think it sees things the way that they should be, and it starts to see things correctly and stuff like that. And so when you flip it, you instantly get you get to see it from another angle, so it resets your brain in a sense, and it's a lot easier to sort of pick out mistakes. So quite often I'll flip it into horizontal, work on it a little bit more, and then flip it back as well, and you'll see a lot of other artists do that, and that basically that's the reason. It's because it refreshes the image in your mind, and it helps you pick out your mistakes. But yeah, so adding a little bit of cross hatching here, and you'll probably see I'll knock off the sketch layer pretty soon, and just see how things look, and then start tweaking it a little bit. But I mean, this is right about the point where we're pretty much ready for color. You can see I'll try something, not happy with that, so undo it, and adding a little bit more detail here and there. I like to go to a little bit extra detail. Sort of like a little bit of freehand on the shoulders. I mean, we could paint that in during color, but I just like adding in the line work. Occasionally I'll sort of erase it out once we paint it, but I think in this one we leave it in for the most part. So here we go, just adding a little bit more hair, and then here we go. I think we're about to kick it into color. Alright, so the first thing I always do, and a lot of people ask as well, why I have it's usually a hideous blue or a hideous green or something like that. Today we've got a weird purple behind, and what is the reason for doing that? And the reason is because if you're coloring on a white canvas, you will quite often forget to color in things like the eyes and the teeth because you think they're already white. That's why I add a solid color behind, so I can see that, okay, no, I haven't done the eyes. So I don't just keep on going, and then when I put it on a transparent background or start painting the background, then suddenly you go, oh yeah, I forgot to do those bits. And it gets everyone, my flat colorist actually gets caught by that a lot. I have a guy who does a lot of my flats for me on bigger projects, and I'm always catching him out with that. So yeah, that's the reason why we do it. But yeah, then aside from that, my first step is laying in flat colors, and I sort of pick out the different sections, and I use the just using the paint bucket tool in Manga Studio, and that is something that I really love compared to the Photoshop one as well. Anyone that's used the Photoshop one will remember the hideous sort of white snail trail thing that gets left behind the edges when you sort of fill in areas. You either need to double fill it or up your tolerance, and there's ways around it, but I found I haven't really had that issue at all with Manga Studio. And of course you have that ability to refer on another layer. Actually, that might be something I should point out as well. So I do create another layer to do colors. So basically your line work sits on one layer on the top, and then you can see underneath it I have my my flat well, actually all my colors will go on it, but in this instance it's my flat colors. And so people will say, how do you get the paint bucket tool or the magic wand tool to reference the lines that you've done on a separate layer? And in Photoshop there's an option called I believe it's refer other layer, or select using all layers or something like that. It's just in the tool properties at the top. But in Manga Studio you can see when I flick over to the paint bucket tool, there is a just under your tool options there, the second option, which is refer other layers, and that just means I'm able to it'll reference that layer above, even though it's not editing on that layer at all as well, which is really handy. Otherwise, I remember that actually for about a year and a half before I knew of that option in Photoshop, I was selecting areas on my line work layer and then jumping down to my flat layer, pasting the color, and then jumping back up and stuff like that, and it was incredibly painful. So hopefully that helps some of you, because hopefully you don't need to go through what I went through. That was extremely painful, and there is an easier way. But yeah, other than that, flat colors is exactly as it looks and exactly as boring as it looks. So just filling it out, so you have a general sense of how all the colors work together. Typically you'll see me use a lot more pastel colors than anything else. It seems to be the colors that I tend to gravitate towards. I won't go into color theory at all, but I do highly recommend, if you have a chance, to do a little bit of investigation into color theory, how color temperatures can affect images, and how colors relate to each other, and you know, the harmonies that you can sort of create between you know, different color palettes and stuff like that. You've got you know, your triads, complementary colors, and analogous and stuff like that. So all that stuff is really good information, and something that I don't know enough about, but I seem to be learning more every single day, and it really will help. So yeah, take some time to read some of that theory, and you'll be surprised at the change that it makes. But yep, so we'll blast through this again. We'll speed it up, and we'll pick it up when we start looking into shading. Alright, so jumping into the shadows now, shadows and highlights, and at the moment I'm painting this all on the same layer, and it took me a while before I was sort of confident enough to do so. I mean, if you, it can be a little scary sometimes, so painting them on separate layers is no issue at all. So just do whatever you feel comfortable with. But in terms of shadows, one of the things that I used to do, and which I don't do anymore, but I'll explain the differences between them. There's two ways that I will shade. Typically, what I used to do was shadows black, highlights white. So basically, you would just lay in black all over the areas where you wanted shadow, and then you would drop the layer style down to multiply, and then set your opacity somewhere between 20 and 30%. And that works. You will get the effect of shadow on a character, and it will look, it will look half decent. And occasionally there'll be times when I will still use that technique on jobs which have either tighter budget timeframes, or for rough concepts that need to get something off to the client relatively quickly. That can work, and then obviously just highlighting with white, and then dropping that to like a soft glow or something, or even just dropping the opacity. The problem with that is that black will darken the entire image, and it will darken all the different sections, and you won't have as much vibrance in your final piece. And you'll see that if you were to shade in both the different methods. This second method, which is what I use now, which is where I will select I'll select the base color and then adjust the color accordingly. So right now we're picking more of a warmer tone to the skin tone, to the base skin tone, and so that's just painted as that's all 100% opacity. It's just painted straight on top. Again, using that pen tool, the G pen. Well, one of the things I should point out as well for people who, obviously, the pen tool is typically a vector object. That's not the case in here. So when you do use the pen tool, it is like the brush tool in Photoshop. But yeah, so basically I'll just pick sort of warmer or cooler tones for the different sections, and keeping in mind obviously how they work together. Now, one of the so people often ask sort of why I'll use the color purple for shadows, and because that's another thing as well. I mean, you can pick colors to shade from which are relatively close to the base, and then occasionally I'll sometimes use quite different colors for shadows. In terms of skin, I'll often use purples and stuff like that. A lot of the Minecraft art tends to I tend to use that as well, and that can add like another layer of sort of vibrance and sort of make it really pop a little bit further than just what we're doing here. And the difficulty is sometimes picking the color to go in with. And what I find, one of the tricks that I found which may be helpful, is in Manga Studio I use the airbrush tool, or the spray can tool. And if I want to add a purple to a skin tone, I can pick a purple, and then I can spray it over the skin tone. And then what you can do is you can get the eyedropper tool and just pretty much just select a layer which is not right at the center of the spray, but not right at the edge, and then that will be a fairly decent mix of the two colors as well, and that will give you a good base to go from. You might need to adjust it a little bit as well, but it's one of the ways, in fact the main way, that I will sort of mix, because sometimes you're not sure, oh, do I need to pull this into the red, or I want to get that in-between point, especially when you're changing colors. So you're going from more of a orangey yellow to a purple. It's a bit harder to get, because you don't want to select from the orangey yellows, you don't actually want to select from the purples, you're selecting somewhere in between. So that can really help for sort of understanding how that works and how that interacts. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, it's just a matter of painting it in. And again, I'll blast this one up, and we'll pick it up when we start hitting the highlight stage.
true destiny. Time won't slow down at all, like a bird set free. It will fly to the heights of its whole life. Do not hesitate in flight. Just reach the ceiling waves of the change. Reflect on pain.
Alright, so now I'm going to start adding a little bit of color difference with some of the lighter shades, and generally you can see I'll start working on some edging of the armor and the different layers on the belt, and so it's the same sort of deal. You want to pick your base color and then take a lighter shade, whether you go more desaturated or more add more saturation. I mean, that's up to you. It's up to you which way you want to go with that. And again, that's where that color theory comes in terms of color and the elements that make up color, and that will help you immensely in sort of picking the correct color for all this sorts of stuff. But yeah, I mean, again, this is just a pen tool. There's nothing real special. You just sort of filling it in where it needs to be. I'll quickly speed it up here, and you'll see me start to rip it through. I think that the last and final tool that I actually want to talk about is that airbrush tool and the spray can, sorry. And it is just, I mean, it's one of the things that I love the most about Manga Studio. It's so nice to work in. It feels so natural, and you just have so much control over it as well. You're able to sort of just feather in edges, as you'll see when we hit that stage, which shouldn't be too far away now. We're just ripping through the highlights, and you can see just sort of exactly the same process. And what I'll do is I'll jump in when we get out the spray can. Alright, and here we go with the spray can. So you can see that occasionally I will select an area of skin tone that I want to work on, which I'm sort of doing here, just selecting the skin area, and I'm going to pick a much lighter shade of that, and then you can see I'm just sort of feathering it in there, just lightly working it in. I think the setting that I used most often is the soft setting on the spray can. I find that works the best. This, I will usually take lighter colors, and so it adds a little bit of gradation to the flat colors, and I used to do that a lot in Photoshop with the gradient tool, but it just looks so linear, and that's why this spray can, and I mean, you could get away with a similar sort of result obviously with a soft brush in Photoshop, and then either just putting on, dropping your flow or dropping your opacity, or even mucking around with the toggling that airbrush setting in there. But it was never as natural as what I'm getting in Manga Studio, and so you can see I'm just sort of working it in here. And then what I'll actually do is I'll start looking to add a few warm and cool colors. So from the bottom, from the shadowy areas, I'm usually going to add a warm color, and from the top and the lighter areas, I'm going to usually try and add in a cooler color. So you can see here I'm taking this blue, which is bit of a cooler color, and I know that, I mean, the vest isn't blue, but I add this in as a, and it's ever so soft and subtle, but on the final piece I find it really sort of can help bring it out. It might be a bit hard to pick up on the video here. And then so I'm going to, here we go, we're jumping into the shadowy area, and we'll pick from there and then slide it a little bit further to the warmer sort of reds and oranges, and sort of work on something. And you can see that really sort of try and change that color up quite a bit, add that strong difference in saturation from the original bit, and using the magic wand and the select tool to just feather it into certain areas. At the same time, I'm never too concerned in making it 100% accurate, because I like that natural feel to it. But yeah, other than that, I think we're pretty close to done. I'll probably play with the spray can a little bit more, and but yeah, I mean, that is pretty much the entire process from start to finish. You saw it right from the pencil sketch all the way to this final piece. So yeah, and I mean, my process doesn't change no matter what I'm working on, whether it be the Minecraft art that you usually see, or the full characters, even a lot of the comic work that I do takes a pretty similar process as well. So but yeah, I mean, hopefully that opened your eyes a little bit to Manga Studio. I know that a lot of people either haven't heard of it or haven't given it much attention, and I was certainly one of them. And then when I finally picked it up, I'm certainly glad I did. So if you are looking to get a little bit more information, as I said, there's a link down the bottom which will link you to a page on my website which has it all there, and there's banners on the right hand side. You can just click that and go straight through, and either there's trials there that you can grab, or there's you can grab the full version there as well for a fraction of the cost of Photoshop. And I mean, obviously it doesn't boast to be the photo editing suite that Photoshop is. It is tailored specifically for artists, and not even just cartoonists. I am merely scratching the surface of its potential, and you'll see there's a lot more talented artists out there that can really flog this thing and create some pretty impressive work. So yeah, I mean, give it a try. I really do recommend it, and hopefully this video has helped you guys a little bit. And I've been talking for close to 35 minutes now, so I'll wrap it up here, and we'll put up this final piece. And yeah, other than that, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll put all my links to Twitter, Facebook, all that sort of jazz, and I don't have to go over it. You guys know what to do, and if you want to do it, then it's there. Other than that, I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.